Hi, I'm Dr. Brett Snyder, and you're watching the Plastic Surgery Channel.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bill Adams, Chief Medical Officer for the Plastic Surgery Channel, and welcome to PSC Hot Topics, the newest program on the Plastic Surgery Channel, where our channel's experts get to weigh in about current hot topics in plastic surgery and help you cut through the hype and the myths and the misinformation about current topics. Joining me now today via webcam is Dr. Steve Teitelbaum from Santa Monica, California. Steve, thanks a lot for taking time out of your busy day to share some thoughts with us.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for having me.
So, Steve, I wanted to ask you about something that has come up recently, most notably in a New York Times article last week about this whole topic of awake breast augmentation, where patients are being operated on in a doctor's office under local anesthesia, and it's being touted as an alternative or even maybe a better alternative for breast augmentation. What do you say about that?
I'm sorry that we're even having to talk about it. It kind of reminds me when there's an act of terrorism and the news media feels compelled, because everyone wants to know, why did these guys blow up this thing, that they have to go into the issues of the terrorists, which of course we shouldn't even be discussing something a terrorist thinks about. And similarly here, it was in the New York Times, we have to respond to it, but this is something that should have never made it to the New York Times. We shouldn't be wasting our breath on it, because the more we talk about it, the more people are talking about it. This is the history of awake breast augmentation. In most states, in order to do a surgery, you have to have an operating room. Makes sense. But if you can figure out a way to do the surgery not in an operating room. See, the law, for instance, in California is that if a patient's sedated enough that they lose their protective reflexes, in other words, given enough medicine so that they're comfortable, you have to be in an operating room. But if you can find a way to not make them sleepy, you can do it in an exam room. So what happened was a group of doctors with no access to an operating room figured out that they could give some local anesthetic and they would be able to do a whole surgery in an exam room. It's ridiculous. So the whole point that they're touting, though, is this business about it being awake and that the patient can pick the size. Well, Bill, as you know, you're the one who wrote the key paper. The best time to pick an implant size is before surgery. You can do precise, exact measurements and know that you have an implant that perfectly fills that patient's breast, neither stuffing it and making it fake nor underfilling it. The time to do that is not during surgery, where there's air around it and fluid and swelling, and trying to sit a patient up to see how it looks is totally inaccurate. And then asking a patient who's asleep and given medicine, and the medicine that impairs some of their judgment, asking them what they want, well, that's not ethical at all to ask them to give judgment at that time. So I'm really disappointed that we're talking about it. But you know, one other thing just remembered, they're touting this as a way of making patients happier with the size, but they've never published a single article. There isn't one article anywhere saying that patients actually are happier when they pick it themselves, when they're given Valium or whatever, and they're propped up halfway in surgery. There's nothing that shows they're any happier that way than, for instance, your way. You've published your results. You did no reoperations or revisions for size. So when it's done properly beforehand, there's no reason to size during surgery. And of course, another thing about all of this is, Bill, guys like you and me, board-certified plastic surgeons with operating rooms, we can do it awake if we wanted to. We have that option. Those who have the option know better and do better. The only doctors that I'm aware of so far touting this are gynecologists, dermatologists, otolaryngologists, people with no training in plastic surgery. And those people who don't have the proper training and who don't have access to the operating rooms are the only ones doing this. So if you wondered if it was a gimmick, I think that pretty much proves it.
And certainly would you would agree with perhaps patients should look at, does their doctor actually have hospital privileges to do the procedure that they're going to do, such as a breast augmentation? Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. You should never have any surgery done by you that's not an accredited operating room and that's done by a surgeon who has not been credentialed by a hospital to do that.
Well, that's some really great insights, and we certainly appreciate that. Now, let me switch gears for a minute. I've seen, and many of my patients have asked about this whole concept of the laser liposuction,
Yes.
What is laser liposuction, and what's the story with it?
Is this gimmick day today, Dr. Adams?
Well, these are the hot topics, you know.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just kidding you back because, the funny thing is these two hot topics are both gimmicky things. And laser liposuction in particular, does it work? Does it remove fat? Sure. But does it do anything at all better than regular liposuction? Absolutely not. The company has made a fortune touting this procedure for the last 3 years. With all of those revenues, with all of those happy patients, they can't publish one study demonstrating any superiority of laser lipo to other liposuction. The jury is back on laser liposuction. Having spoken to doctors who are very honest, they say that they bought it just as a marketing tool. In this economic downturn, it's very difficult. A lot of plastic surgeons have had quiet times, but finding a marketing gimmick like smart lipo, laser lipo, it excites patients. When patients Google things, the surgeon can rank higher when their name is associated with something like laser, because of course patients are excited about laser. But my advice to you, to a patient, anyone who wants to have great liposuction, it's not about any particular technique. It really isn't about the tool. It's about the surgeon and how they use it, how they assess you, what they decide to do, how much to remove, and that they do it in a beautiful and artful fashion. But the jury's come back now. There's no data that shows any advantage to laser liposuction. And my best advice to you as a patient, find a great surgeon and don't spend any time thinking about a gimmicky technique.
Well, Steve, thank you certainly for your candor, and I think that you've given us some really great information about both these topics. Thank you again for taking your busy time out of your day and spending a few minutes with us to help us clarify some things.
Great show, Bill. Thanks for bringing this information to all of us. I enjoy watching.
Great. And thank you for joining us on PSC Hot Topics. Again, spend some time with us, help us cut through the myths and get to the bottom line about your favorite plastic surgery hot topic. If you have any questions that you'd like us to cover or things that you feel are hot, make sure you email them to us at info@theplasticsurgerychannel.com, and we'll see you next time.